Welcome everyone to another episode of Wiki Weekends, where we wind up a wiki, we take a deep dive, and we keep swimming until we find something fun to talk about. I'm your host for this episode, Lucas Holland, and as always, I am joined by the lovely Karl Smallwood.
Why are you introducing me like a guy on a game show?
I don't know. It's just the vibe for today, Karl. We're doing it.
Okay, let's go.
He's in my walls. He's in my holes. It's Karl Smallwood.
Don't say it like that. It makes you sound like a criminal.
He's just off camera. You can't see him. He's right there. But Karl, today we are talking about something that, hopefully people are, still in, the hype zone about in a weird way. Because we're talking about Marvel today.
Okay.
Today we are talking about the Netflix series of Daredevil.
Okay, let's go.
It's in that weird thing right now of, it is canon, but it isn't canon.
It's nebulous how canon it is, and I guess we'll find out when the show is released, because if anyone who's watching this a couple of months down the line, the Netflix... no, not the Netflix, the Disney Plus Daredevil Born Again show has yet to air.
Yes, so we are talking about the Netflix show of Daredevil, all 3 seasons, with spoilers.
I'd recommend watching all the episodes, and just whenever they mention anyone else in that Netflix universe, just ignore them. When Luke Cage turns up or Iron Fist turns up, it doesn't matter.
On a second rewatch, like I did, I decided to try and catch up before Daredevil Born Again came out, and I kind of rewatched all of it. And then whenever Elektra and Stick were on screen, I was like,
Matthew, there are things about me you don't know.
I don't need to know.
I want you to.
I don't care.
The fact that Elektra can't say Daredevil's fucking name will never stop pissing me off. It's I know the actress has an accent, but when she's like, Matthew, it's it's Matthew. Say it properly.
People might be thinking out of context that Carl's being a dickhead there. That actor's portrayal of Elektra is just bad.
She's a terrible actress. She might be a good actress in other things, but in that show, she is awful. She is a sledgehammer to the balls every time she's on screen. She brings it to a screeching halt.
And I would argue that both her and the actor for Stick do as well. Both of them.
I don't mind the actor for Stick, but just every time he's on screen, I'm like, please shut the fuck up. I get
just shut up. We can move on.
Get out.
The first time Stick was introduced, I'm like, okay, cool. Stick seems alright here. After the 8th time that they needed to talk about the Foot Clan, I know it's the hand, but, Ninja Turtles fans, it's the Foot Clan. Every time he comes on screen, he's like, the Foot Clan are at it again. It's like, shut the fuck up, man. I think the fact that all 3 of them have deaths that turn out to be reversible kind of says it all, right? I'm a big fan of the Marvel Netflix Daredevil show. We've talked about the Daredevil 2005 film. You can go watch that.
Watch our video on it, not the film.
Yeah, we've discussed how weird that film is and how cool that film is already, but it's good, then kind of good, and then great. Is how I would describe all 3 seasons. It's there's a lot of great in season 2 and a lot of bad in season 2. Season 1 was solid. Season 3 is fantastic.
Who are you? I'm Daredevil.
It's basically any moment that he said Stick, Elektra, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist. Anytime you even hint at those being there, it sucks. But whenever Kingpin's there, whenever it's Kingpin, it's all the Punisher. It's fuck yeah, let's go.
Kingpin, Frank Castle, Bullseye, holy god damn, yes.
I assumed that the stories that I read in the paper about your attacks on the criminal world were apocryphal. How could one man be capable of such violence?
I think it's important, if you're going to watch Daredevil Born Again as a Disney Plus show, to go and watch these 3 seasons of Daredevil. Because pretty much every character seems to be back. Maybe not Elektra, because maybe they learned a lesson.
She's just dead off screen. Punisher got her.
Well, dead on screen, I think, right?
This is not the end.
The fact that, season 3 exists as the payoff for season 1 and 2 is incredibly good.
Yeah. Like, just ignore all the shit about, like, dragons and ninjas and shit.
And ignore the fact that every season's got to have like 13 episodes in it because it was Netflix at the time, and it's like, it should have been like 8 to 10 per
It's
season.
weird to think, right, of like a show where you'd want less episodes, but those episodes that are pointless are the ones where they try to set up the other characters in that weird Netflix universe, and it's like they all suck.
Every single Marvel Netflix TV show had the exact same problem of like, you really wanted to stretch this out to 13 episodes or so, and it should have been 8.
The alternative would have been if they made like 25 episodes and they completely changed the tone of the show, and rather than it being the story that they told, would have been a procedural where it's Matt Murdock solving crimes.
Yeah, or Matt Murdock being a bit more in court.
You're not here because you're a better lawyer or person. You're here because you're almost as crazy as Frank Castle, and that's it.
So you called me here to insult me?
I called you here to be useful for a change.
The fact that he's a lawyer is one of the most interesting things about him. They barely do any of the lawyer stuff. It's like the She-Hulk show where the most interesting parts for me are where she's talking about weird superhero-related crimes. Like, okay, so this dude can't die and he's cashed in like 18 life insurance policies. How do we deal with that?
And then he gets hit by like 4 different cars. His body regenerates, and then he just gets up and walks away. I, of course, immediately recognize my idiot husband, Roger.
It should have been Law and Order or Single Female Lawyer.
Yeah.
They try to do too many things. It's similar to the other Netflix shows where they tried to tell too broad a story. Like, the reason Daredevil worked is because Daredevil just micromanages the fuck out of one city block. And that's all he cares about. It's like, if it's not in Hell's Kitchen, he don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Same like the Punisher, right? Where he does go to other places, but normally his thing is like, there's one person and I'm going to shoot them, and I'm going to shoot everybody who gets in the way of me shooting that one guy. Whereas like the Iron Fist show, it's like, we try to take over the world with like the weird dragon shit, or Luke Cage has to fight like, oh, the military's going to take over Harlem, and Jessica Jones, like, Purple Man's going to take over the world. It's like, you're a private investigator for one city block. Why can you not just tell that story?
And it was really interesting when it was the personal story about Purple Man and him going after like her family and stuff. And
Yeah.
a lot of that season 1 really worked because it was really small scope and personal, and then the moment it has, again, similar to like the thing we always call out WandaVision, is the most blatant example of just, why did this have to be CGI fight at the end when you had such a good core idea nailed down to a T?
And just, you've got to get bums on seats, there's got to be a big CGI fight at the end. It's like the Jessica Jones show, right? Where it's like, oh, just her friend randomly got superpowers and it's never gonna fucking pay off.
Hell no.
On the plus side,
Yes.
Daredevil, when it does focus in on just like Daredevil itself, and arguably, you know, the Punisher at times, mostly Daredevil and Kingpin and Bullseye and Daredevil's actual like individual problems, it is absolutely great. It does go to show that as much as we every now and then complain about like the dark, gritty side of comics, like with the Snyderverse and the, you know, what came from the Dark Knight trilogy, not necessarily the trilogy itself, but kind of the reaction to it. Sometimes I like a little bit of grit on the side.
Especially like with the Daredevil show, where they do balance it, because you literally have the light and dark. You have like the forward-facing persona of Matt Murdock, of like the lawyer who helps the downtrodden.
Yeah.
And he puts, it's the literal, like, you know, smiling face on the brand. And then just at night, he goes out and beats people up dressed like a fucking scarecrow, like Vampire Man. It's great.
Really hope they kind of stick with that similar tone, because we don't actually get much of that with Marvel. They've been pretty good at not going too deep on the dark and gritty, whereas it becomes a bit more tiresome where you've got Dark Knight trilogy, Man of Steel, blah, blah, blah. But if you're going to get more of the Robert Pattinson Batman, when Superman is super bright and hopeful and quirky and weird,
It's nice,
cool.
yeah. Just you don't want to eat nothing but cheesecake. I like cheesecake, but sometimes you want like something salty.
I'm happy for that Matt Reeves Batman verse to exist, where the rest of DC is getting goofy, but when it was on the side of more dour, depressing Justice League, etc.
It also helps that Daredevil is led by an incredibly charismatic actor in Charlie Cox, and he has a great supporting cast around him. You have like Deborah Ann Wolfe and I forget who plays Foggy.
that it is Eldon Henson, like the Wikipedia says here. And then we have the absolutely, like, fantastic, just as good as Charlie Cox is Daredevil, you have to give props to Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, right?
You're worried that Frank Castle will wreak havoc on Hell's Kitchen. Just wait.
Vincent D'Onofrio is like one of the best actors working today. Anyone acting like opposite him is going to have their work out for them. And the fact that Charlie Cox and John Bernthal both hold their own acting against D'Onofrio as the Kingpin.
And also, you've got to give props to, like, Karen and Foggy as well. I think they absolutely do work in that show. Like,
when those, like, the core three of Daredevil are so good together, and you really believe that, like, Foggy and Matt are friends, and just how naturalistic their dialogue sounds, like where just they're shooting shit in the bar. It's like, Matt, why is it you're blind, but you're always like just dating 10 on 10 Stone Cold Foxers? And he just has that wry little smile. He's like, yeah, I do. Yeah, I hit that.
it's like, how is it that you can beat us in a game of pool, Matt? What the fuck is going on here?
I love as well, like, the fact we've got to give props to how well Charlie Cox plays a blind dude.
Yes.
Who's not blind. Because that's the thing, is he's playing a blind guy who's not blind. So he's playing someone who is blind, who is acting blind, but he's an actor who can see, who's pretending not to be able to see, but can see. Which is difficult. If you think about the amount of layers that in that performance. Like I say, Charlie Cox is a guy who can see, playing a guy who is blind, but can secretly see.
I'm told by my guests my apartment's a bit stark. I thought maybe some art would warm it up.
I'm going to go out on a limb and assume these guests were women.
Well, I'm not trying to impress the pizza guy.
And you have a lot of, like, just slice of life moments with Matt showing how a blind person would do everyday tasks. Like when you just see him in his house making his breakfast, for example. And it's everything's done by touch. And that's something Matt was very clear. That's something Charlie Cox was very...
Cox. Yes, yeah.
And that's something Charlie Cox was very committed to portraying realistically, because when he spoke to people who were blind or people who helped those who were blind, that was the chief complaint about how people with that condition are portrayed in movies.
Well, just think about the difference between the way Ben Affleck plays it and the way Charlie Cox plays it. Is like, Ben Affleck ostensibly plays a blind guy that you wouldn't believe is blind. Other than the cane, that character and Matt Murdock does not seem like he's blind at all, to the point where, like, even Elektra's like, are you fucking blind or is this just a joke? And it's such a very, like, clever and nuanced portrayal by Charlie Cox, and presumably that might be the, like, main kind of idea behind bringing back a Netflix show into the MCU, is probably people campaigning for Charlie Cox of all people.
It's just the strength of his performance. Like, if...
And Vincent D'Onofrio.
Like, he got brought back in, like, the Hawkeye show, right? It's like Marvel are picking and choosing what they want to bring back, and why would you not bring back two of the strongest elements of those Netflix shows, which was the Punisher show and the Daredevil show, and all of the elements featured in, or most of the elements featured therein.
However, I believe that the show writers for Brave New World, again, we have not seen the show yet, but I believe behind the scenes there was talks of like, hey, Disney did not want to bring back Karen and Foggy to begin with. And basically the showrunners were like, absolutely not. They are the emotional core of this show. They are what makes Matt work as a character, and we cannot make Daredevil work without those two.
One of the things that, like, Matt Murdock always struggles with in the comics is coming to terms with the fact he's a strict Catholic who goes out at night and beats the fuck out of people. We have that great scene, right, where he goes to the confessional. And he's talking to the priest. He's like, what do you need to be like washed of, my son? It's like, I'm not asking for forgiveness for something I've done. I'm asking for forgiveness for something I'm about to do.
Are you struggling with the fact that you don't want to kill this man, but have to? Or that you don't have to kill him, but want to?
Season 1 is very much, you know, the build-up of Daredevil as a character and kind of the eventual reveal of the outfit, because they have to build all that up within the origin story of how, like, the kind of gritty story tells it
Yeah.
That way of like, well, we can't be comic book from the beginning. You've got to like lean into it over time.
But the costumes that he does wear are influenced by the costumes in the comics. Like his initial costume with just the bandana over his eyes, that's the Man Without Fear.
Yeah.
And a detail that I adore about the Daredevil costume as the seasons go on is that it gets better as he has to deal with the bigger and worse threats. Like, for example, when he first goes in, he's wearing like the Man Without Fear costume. Then he has to start wrapping like the thick ropes around his hands. He's like, well, I'm just like caning my knuckles from just beating up criminals all fucking day. I need to protect my knuckles. And then he gets like the leather outfit, which is like, oh, okay, I need to protect myself from like knives and like stabbing implements. Then he's got like the bulletproof like plating put in. Then his helmet, my helmet's got to be fucking rock solid, but it can't be too solid that I can't hear out of it.
And then eventually we get to a point where, like in season 3, he's given up the outfit, and instead Benjamin Dex Poindexter takes the outfit and uses it as Bullseye, and that is played by Wilson Bethel. And again,
God, Bullseye's so threatening in that show.
Like, just such a good way to depict the character of like, hey, I am like at the point of breaking at any moment, and this is a guy that's like kept to all of his like regimes and fundamentals to make sure that just he never breaks. But then the moment it does break, he just leans all the way into Bullseye.
I've sent you a gift, an opportunity to become your true self. And if you accept this, unlike everyone in your life, I will never abandon you.
And we've got to give props to the fact that the Daredevil show makes Bullseye's power set seem threatening. It's like, okay, he never misses, so he's good with guns, right? Like we saw that with like Deadshot in that shitty like Suicide Squad. It's like, no. It's not that he never misses with guns. He never misses with anything. It's like, well, how was that scary? Okay, it is with a pencil.
It sounds bad when you're like, yeah, this guy can throw anything he wants at me, but when you put that into the practice of everything in my hands is a dangerous weapon, holy fucking shit, they did that so well.
Yes, not to mention the choreography of those fights. We can't not talk about the choreography of the fight scenes in Daredevil. Like, the Bullseye ones are fun, but like with the one shots are just unmatched in the MCU now. I guess it's part of the MCU, right?
I guess so, yeah.
The Iron Fist show didn't have, or didn't think to call the choreographers from the Daredevil show. Well, no, we can do it better.
And I still remember, like, looking up clips of recently, looking up Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Okay.
And I was like, oh shit, okay, this is a bit choppier than I remember. It's not Iron Fist bad.
You can see the influence from the Bourne movies.
There's a lot of choppiness in the cuts, but it's not quite as bad as, like, Taken 3 is with Liam Neeson trying to get over a fence. But, like, then you watch Daredevil, and so many of those, like, different fight scenes are either one-shots, where there's the cool, like, hallway fight and stuff like that.
Yep, an obvious reference to Old Boy, which, if we don't mention, people will mention, we know it's a reference to Old Boy, the original Korean version, not the shitty Spike Lee version with Josh Brolin.
Which, like, shout out to the game Sifu. I've basically taken that one-shot scene from Old Boy and go, why have we made that a video game?
Yeah, and including putting in a section where you fight in a corridor. Yeah. Which is fun. When I play Sifu, and I was like, okay, I'm getting used to this, and I chased a dude into a hallway, and it turned around and went side. Oh! And then the first time someone threw a fucking wrench at me, and I caught it in midair, and then backflip kicked it back. I'm like, I guess if you're going to give props to that, there's also the game A Way Out, where they also do the Old Boy fight scene. It's not as good, but the fact they put it in is fucking incredible. When they're doing those scenes, it's like locked down camera so you can see the actor acting, and the influence there would be like obviously Jackie Chan movies and Hong Kong movies, but also so like The Raid.
Yeah, The Raid is a great example, but I love the fact that, like, especially Daredevil Season 1, that hallway fight scene ends with Daredevil so exasperated.
He's so exhausted, because the actor is, right?
Because he would be. It's just the fact that he's been sat there fighting for like 5 minutes with this wave upon wave of dudes coming at him. He's like, ugh. And I think the best example of using his blindness as like an influence on the fight is when a bunch of people raid his flat in night vision goggles and he just turns the lights on.
So yeah, it's one of the funniest comic moments is where Daredevil, because he basically can just see through walls, and he's like about to walk into his apartment. He's like, okay, have a listen. Okay, that sounds like a tactical team wearing night vision goggles, waiting for me in the dark. I wonder what I'll do here, and just turns the light on.
It is just funny though when they go to the MCU version in She-Hulk, and it's like, oh, he's got like the mustard yellow outfit on. He's doing like CGI backflips everywhere, and it's so much more exaggerated.
Like he jumps off the roof of a building, right, and he just lands on the car and he's fine. So I guess Daredevil probably could do peak human conditioning.
That is way more comic book Daredevil, but because the Netflix series was so grounded and serious, it feels so silly. But the fact that they were willing to bring back Charlie Cox in that, and then Spider-Man No Way Home as well, and just like actually bring in those actors rather than give us like a new set. No one's sitting here and clamoring for like Iron Fist to come back, but they knew what they were doing. They cherry picked the right people.
Iron Fist has been replaced by Shang-Chi, right? Iron Fist is dead. There's no point for Iron Fist to exist in the MCU when Shang-Chi's there, because even though they're different characters, they fulfill essentially the same role.
They're interesting characters, but like maybe you could argue for like Kristen Ritter to come back as Jessica Jones. I think she did a good job. Obviously, David Tennant did a good job of Purple Man, but fairly certain he died, right?
So I'm not going to rewatch that. And just don't bring Mike Coulter back as Luke Cage. He didn't give a fuck.
At least season 1 of Jessica Jones was good. Daredevil was good. Punisher was good. They had ups and downs, but those 3 series were okay. Then you've got like Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Defenders, and just...
Like season 1 of Luke Cage was fine, right up until they kill the incredibly charismatic Mahershala Ali.
I was about to say, I was like, season 1 was okay until
they kill. Like, why would you kill off the best actor in the show?
The moment it became like whatever the fuck his brother was or whatever, I did not give a shit.
That outfit that he wears as well, and it's like, oh god, that looks so bad.
New Blade, maybe.
Yeah, I like the theory that he got bitten by a vampire and didn't die.
Like, right. That movie seems to be in all kinds of trouble, but potentially our New Blade got killed off halfway through that season, and all of a sudden I stopped giving any flying amount of fucks.
Oh, you killed off the most interesting part of the show for me,
like halfway through. The interesting part of that show.
And you bring in like this complete and utter just fucking wet fart of a character in his brother.
That's all you got? Where's our offense?
You've got a bulletproof, super strong person fighting someone who's got business on their side. It's like Superman versus Lex Luthor, right? It's interesting to see how someone beats someone who is literally bulletproof using their mind, their wiles, and all what have you. And they get rid of that in Mahershala Ali to bring in just the dude like, well, we're just going to make him wear a super suit to be as strong as Luke Cage so they can punch each other. It's like, that's not why it's interesting.
You know what a lot of Marvel really missed, Karl? It was 2 dudes with the exact same power set punching each other at the end of a show.
Yeah. That's why, like, the Daredevil fight with Kingpin works, right? Because the first time he punches Kingpin and he doesn't go down in one hit, and Matt's like, I don't know what to do.
But then he's like, I tell you what about 1,000 punches?
The idea of 2 people fighting, but one of it's like a sumo wrestler versus like a martial artist, right? Speed versus power. That's why it's interesting. Like the Punisher, he's fighting dudes with gun, but he's always outnumbered. It's not him fighting one guy with a gun.
Especially the one where it's like Daredevil almost completely unleashed when it's the Kingpin in his flat in season 3, and like even fucking Bullseye comes in and is like, nah.
I reckon that Daredevil could beat up Shang-Chi.
No.
I reckon he, like that level of Daredevil.
I don't think there's any way. Like,
not with like the rings, but
no, I still think like the amount of just prowess that Shang-Chi shows, like bear in mind, multiple people, including a guy with like a arm that can cut through buses, they come at him all at once, and Shang-Chi just like basically beats them off like it's nothing.
Coming! Hang on!
I reckon Daredevil would give him a fucking good go.
It'd be an interesting fight, but I think like Shang-Chi just has him all day, every day.
He does know every martial art, I guess. So, whereas Matt Murdock just knows one martial art and it's punch fu.
Because that thing is like, in terms of just martial arts capability 101, I'd favour Shang-Chi every day, at least in the MCU depictions, but Matt Murdock could use his abilities and use the environment to his advantage, so it'd be an interesting fight.
It would, yeah. Like, especially when, like, Matt Murdock, if you've got him in, like, if you get him full comic strength Matt Murdock, where he literally can't die because he believes in Jesus so much. Where there's, like, one comic where he legit straight up dies and he just comes back to life because he's Catholic. And he's like, what? No, he's Catholic. Fuck yeah, he comes back.
And just as a way to bring the Wiki back in a little bit here, to just talk about the Netflix version specifically. Again, if you're going to watch Born Again, I would recommend that you watch the Netflix version of the show. They're bringing back at least, 6 of the actors. They are tying it in very closely to this show. It's basically going to be a sequel.
But at the same time, they're probably going to tell a completely original story. It's been so long now where they can probably say, yeah, Matt had some adventures a few years ago. That's not important right now.
We technically don't know if they're even going to pull a multiverse on us, right? Of these are all in the MCU version. There was basically a really similar story that happened in another multiverse, but technically these are brand new versions. We don't know. I doubt they're going to do that.
It's like the Kingpin, right? We don't know if it's the same Kingpin or if it's just the same actor. And I don't mind, if you want to do multiversal shenanigans, say it's based, the same thing happened to this Matt Murdock as happened in that Netflix show, but there's some minor differences, like he wears a different costume.
Exactly, right. You've got to assume that at very least they're going to stick to, the premise of the Netflix stuff. If not outright them being the same universe, they're going to basically be assume that everything that happened to these guys happened to the new guys as well.
With J. Jonah Jameson is a great example in Spider-Man, where it's the same actor playing the same character, and the character has essentially the same story and background, but they're just slightly different in this version.
He's just dealing with a different Spider-Man, and he's dealing with a different medium, right? It's he's ostensibly the same character, just lifted into a different universe, but either way, whichever way they want to do it, they might not want to say that it's the same universe, because then you've got to remember all of the Defenders shit, but they might just be it's different universe, but everything happened the same.
Yeah. We're just picking and choosing the parts that we want. It's maybe the Punisher didn't shoot as many people in this universe.
He probably shot more.
It depends.
There's Captain America kills in this one, Karl.
That's true as well. Do you think that version of the Punisher is going to be as fucking badass as he was in?
No, because presumably they're going to be shooting for a lower age rating, right?
We're not going to get the Punisher grinding a guy's face into hamburger meat on a broken mirror, right?
I don't think so.
We're not going to get that.
I also felt so uncomfortable from that scene. I'm not going to miss it.
Yeah, but you do need the violence in the Punisher show is kind of necessary because Frank Castle is not a good guy, and
which is why they might just not do a Punisher show, right?
He might just be in it he's Marvel's John Wick.
So
it's okay for him to kill people in horrible ways as long as he establishes that the people he's killing are bad people. But I think I'd argue the violence of the way he dispatches them is important because it gets across Frank Castle's character that he's not the disciplinarian, he's the Punisher. He wants to punish people. And if he just shoots people and they just fall down, there's no blood. Anyone can do that, right?
There's a meaning to the brutality where, for example, in Daredevil Season 2, where just one of the most memorable moments, to me at least, is when Frank and Matt having that discussion on the rooftop, and Frank is look, when you put people away, they come back out. When I put people down, they never commit a crime ever again. And there's a weight to that because of the way that Punisher just dispatches people, to put it bluntly, right?
Not to mention as well, the sheer brutality and efficiency with which he kills people serves as a warning. It's like, you have, like I said, Captain America shoots people, like Nick Fury shoots people, Marie Hill shoots people. The Punisher does do the same thing, but he does it in a distinctly different way.
Yeah, they make a very big point about the fact that the beginning of season 2 of Daredevil, the Punisher wipes out the entire like Irish crime family, and it's like, this must have been like an army that did this, and it's like, no,
he tore through them like they were nothing. And even like Matt Murdock, who's been like, you know, breaking people's legs left, right, and centre, is appalled by just the sheer scale and like damage that the Punisher does. And
then later in the series, you even get a guy that was like, look, I knew that this Punisher guy was out here, but I assumed that it was all exaggerated, and we couldn't have prepared for a guy being a literal one-man army, because that would be ridiculous. Yeah.
And you have like a couple of great moments. I think it's the Thomas Jane like bootleg universe where he reprised his role for that like just bootleg Punisher like short film, right, where he just describes of like there's a difference between justice and punishment. Would you like to find out what it is? And that's the way the Punisher thinks. He's like, just shooting someone, that's too good. Like, especially if they're a horrible criminal who's committed horrific crimes against the innocent. Just shooting, that's too easy. The Punisher doesn't like that because that's not punishment. Like they're getting off too easy.
You killed my son. Both of them.
And it's difficult to portray that without showing the violence. Like I said, like with Billy Barnes, right? The reason he has to have his face grinded on that mirror and he has to scream in agony, it's like it has to be shown in such horrific pornographic detail because that's the guy who killed the Punisher's family.
Yeah.
He's not allowed to go down easy. If you just shot him in the leg or just like punched him and knocked him out, that's not enough.
No, he's got to make sure that like this dude fucking suffers, and that's because of Frank Castle's personality, right?
Yeah.
Like, he wants to punish people.
It's like, it would be a very different story if, like, Matt Murdock found that guy, right? He'd probably be beaten half to death, but he'd be dispatched, he'd be beaten just enough so he wouldn't get back up, whereas the Punisher would make sure he's not going to get back up, and if he ever does get back up, he's walking with a limp.
Or coming into season 2 with a weird face mask and pretending like he's this horrible malformed creature when he's still super attractive dude with a couple of scars.
It'll never be worse than in the Warzone movie, I think it is, where like the glass recycle machines, like grind up glass spinning around, like Jigsaw in that movie gets thrown into one of them, and he's in there for like half an hour. Like, he's in like broken glass that's like being spun around for like half an hour. It's real bad.
I presume he dies.
No, he gets back out, but he's fucked up.
Come on, Cap! Fuck you, man! Fuck you, cancel, you fucking...
No, you don't get back out of that.
Well, you do. That's why
you don't. You die in that shit.
You do. Like, well, that's the thing. The idea is that the guy survives, and that's why the Punisher's so surprised. He never expects the dude to survive, and he comes out as like a fucking horrible monster man.
Oh dear God!
It's like in the one comic where he's it's a human trafficker, and he just throws her against a window. And she's like, "You can't throw me out the window, dipshit. It's bulletproof glass." Like, I know, I've got time though.
Reminds me of that great moment in, can't remember whether it's Batman Begins or Dark Knight, where he's got like Falcone just a couple of stories up, and he's like, "I'm not gonna die from this, how you dipshit." He's like, "I know, that's the plan."
It's like, what? And just breaks his ankle, right?
It's like, I ain't planning on killing you. I plan on making you suffer.
Yeah, and the reason why the Punisher does that as well is it adds to his mystique and it makes people less inclined to fight him. Like, there's a bit in one comic where they send the Russian after him. And the Russian's like a bulletproof dude, like he ate a guy for a bet once. He like jumped out of a plane without a parachute above like war-torn country and then turned up like 6 days later in another part of the country just drinking beer, wearing like someone's skin. And they send him to kill the Punisher. And then like half an hour later, after they sent this dude in, the Punisher arrives on the mob boss's lawn with the Russian's head and just throws it at him. And every member of the mob boss's crew is like, "I'm done. You couldn't pay me enough to fight that guy. So I'm not fighting him. I'm more scared of him than I am of like being like you, because I know if I leave, he's going to kill you and he might not kill me."
See, what you meant to say was that the Punisher actually stabbed the Russian in real life while filming, because that a Fight Fiend video.
Real story, yeah. Kevin Nash playing the Russian, but in the comics, he actually kills him because his neighbor is like overweight, and he crashes through the door, and he gets his overweight neighbor and pushes him over on top of the Russian until he suffocates. And then he waits for him to be dead, and then he cuts his head off.
Kevin Nash, as you say, got just stabbed by the actor playing the Punisher, just in real life, and that is a fun video as well to go and watch. But thank you all for watching. I hope everyone had a lovely time watching this video, and hopefully you can...
Oh, do you think Kevin Nash is coming back as the Russian?
No.
Can you imagine if they did that? If they had Kevin Nash Russian cameo?
That would be cool, but imagine being like, yeah, the last time I played this character, I got literally stabbed on set. You wouldn't be coming back.
Okay, who would be the cameo you'd be least hyped to see? Would it be Iron Fist?
Oh.
See, that's it. I think if they brought Iron Fist back, they'd have to do it justice, right? So I'd be kind of curious to see Iron Fist again, just because you know the actor's got to fucking earn his paycheck. Of like, you need to undo the embarrassment that was your performance in the last show. Right?
Who would you be more upset to see from Netflix's like cast of characters, Karl? Would it be Danny Rand or would it be Elektra Natchios?
Well, I'd say if they brought back Danny Rand, I think like just Finn Jones would have no excuse but to not put on the best physical performance of his career. Because if he didn't, he's never going to work in any sort of like super media game. Because he was like a huge salty bitch about the first one where he refused to work out.
Yeah.
But I would also like to see a White Tiger, like Jessica Henwick, just because Jessica Henwick's hot as fuck, and she got done dirty by that Iron Fist show because she had to.
No, she was great in that. Yeah.
And she actually was in the gym like 6-7 hours a day learning martial arts, whereas Finn Jones, Iron Fist, didn't turn up.
No, she was actually like the one good part of that show, I would argue.
And the reason why Finn Jones can just like gargle my balls is because he didn't want to turn up to training, which would have involved hanging out and wrestling with Jessica Henwick for 7 hours straight.
Yeah, what a sad life that would have been.
Yeah, he didn't want to be paid to do that.
I think that's a good point to end it. And thank you all for watching.
Cheers, everybody.
The shame, Karl. The shame.
So, Lucas, we are here at the end of a Wiki Weekends video, and we're supposed to be giving a shout-out to members of our Patreon right now, but we've got a confession to make, haven't we?
Yeah, shout out to Karl for doing the entire show without recording any of it.
Because I spilled this cup of tea onto my keyboard. Here's the clip of it happening without proper audio, because when I spilled the tea onto my keyboard, it pressed stop on the recording.
And Karl, just as a special thank you, we always like to end our Wiki Weekends videos with a shout out to the people on our shout out tier on our lovely Patreon.
I just spilled my tea.
Okay.
No, it's fine. Let's go.
Okay. Karl spilled his
more
tea.
Important than my keyboard, which is now going over here.
We've been paid money to ignore Karl spilling tea. It's okay.
I guess I know what I'm using some of the Patreon money for this month.
Oh, so, we're going to do the round of shout-outs all again to make sure that it's all in nice audio quality.
Yes, because we do want to shout out the people supporting us on Patreon in the highest quality we are able to, even though it was very funny when I spilled the tea.
It was. But Karl, who is the first person we've got to shout out?
Well, that is, of course, Be of Awesome. And these names are in no particular order, unless you consider alphabetical order to be an order, in which case they're totally in order, and Be of Awesome, is at the front of the queue. If anyone out there would like to subscribe to our Patreon as a name that starts with an A, if Aaron A. Aronson's out there.
I was going to make the joke. I was about to make the joke, just the Aaron A. Aronson coming in, but yes.
You did good, kid.
Ta.
What's your name?
Be of Awesome.
Sorry?
If Aaron A. Aronson is out there and wants to subscribe and wants to go ahead of Be of Awesome, you're more than welcome to. But for now, Be of Awesome is the front of the pack. But they're trailed closely behind by who, Lucas?
Well, I hope that we're getting the name right this time, because we, do this monthly, but the person pointed out mid-month that we've been getting their name incorrect. It's not, in fact, Dan Daly. I believe it's Dan Dilly. And I hope we're getting that right, and if anyone else has a problem with the pronunciation of that name, let us know. We're just here to show appreciation for the people on the highest tier on Patreon, and hopefully Dan Dilly is the right way to say it, and we really appreciate the fact that you're putting up with us mispronouncing your name. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We can only apologise, and I will say that Dan Dilly is much more fun to say, because it does mean that I can say Dan Dilly Dally Shilly Shally.
Yes?
Oh.
Oakley.
Dan Dilly.
Oakley Doakley.
Yes, and the next person we'd like to give a shout out to is simply Judge Dredd. And I'd like to think that's the actual Judge Dredd who's just like, you know what? I'm sick of just like, you know, shooting criminals and riding around on like the Lawmaster in Mega City 1. Let's go just watch some Wiki Weekend. So thank you to Judge Dredd.
DNA is a perfect match for
Judge Dredd.
It's a lie! The evidence has been falsified! It's impossible! I never broke the law! I am the law!
So I guess shout outs to Judge Dredd, like, as you say, you are the law, but you're also a legend.
I like to think of, you know, the amount of times you hear like people being like, well, I'm a truck driver and I listen to podcasts all day while I'm driving. Just Judge Dredd on their bike going through Mega City 1 with like the Wiki Weekdays podcast just playing in the corner.
Like, if it was me riding through Mega City 1 on a cool motorcycle, I'd be listening to Synthwave, but this Judge Dredd likes to listen to our podcast and our video, so well done you.
Clearly a person of taste, Karl. And the last person of taste that we've got to shout out today is Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka. And I just always have to shout them out of just, you know, you've been here for a good time, not a long time, but I inspire everybody else. We do appreciate everyone for just watching, not necessarily financially supporting, but if anyone thinks they can come in with a more baller name than Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka, I implore you.
As we said last time, if anybody out there wants to test the limits of how long a name on Patreon can be, give it a go. Because so far, Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka is the longest name we have to shout out. And also, that name is up here forever now. Like last time we did one of these like recordings and shout outs at the end, just the entire time I was making a cup of tea after the fact, like doing the edit, it's just Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka, like a spell to ward off evil or like witches or something.
Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka. Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka. Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka. Well, and hopefully to ward off the evil that is this channel going away anytime soon, which we're not planning on, but just, you know, hyperbole
Where are
and
you
all
going
that.
with this?
Yeah, I just say, you know, support us on Patreon or watch the videos till the end like you're doing currently. Share, like, subscribe, all that good jazz, and thank you for watching.
That's the thing. Anyone who's watching this conversation right now has watched to the very end of the video, and for that we can only say thank you.
Of course, yes. Thank you very much. Have a lovely
Have a nice
day.
day.